everyone. My name is Meher Besania. I'm the Global Director of WZCC Middle East region. At the outset, I would like to welcome our guest speaker, Sam Balsara, Chairman of Madison World, and the charismatic Lara Balsara Vajita, the Executive Director at Madison. I would also like to welcome our Global Director, Adel Dawar of WZCC, CC Regional Directors, Chapter Chairs, members and guests. Thank you all for attending this webinar. These webinars have somehow created a circle of friendship within the community and the organization. This is the last webinar for the year being conducted by WZCCME, and we will see you live again in March with an excellent speaker. As we all know, Madison today is India's largest independent communications company. Recently, a global rating agency ranked Madison Media as the world's fifth largest independent media agency by size of billing in the US and second in Germany. The guest host for today's talk is Nozer Buchia from Houston, and I'm sure the session will be interesting. Now, with great pleasure, I would like to invite Jasmine Sorabji, the Global Operations Director of Omnicom Media Group, to introduce Sam and Lara Balsara to this webinar. Jasmine has joined live from New York City. Speaking about Jasmine, after obtaining her graduate degree in economics, Jasmine started her career in media planning in 1988. Today, she is one of the most respected media professionals, not only winning recognition in India, but also globally. Amongst her many achievements, the ones that stand out most are the three top media agencies in India: Mediacom, OMD, and PhD. After spending 16 years with Mediacom, she set up OMD in India in 2007, and in 2013 became the CEO of OMG Southeast Asia. Well done, Jasmine. Later that year, she launched PhD India, and that company picked up 3 gold lions in Cannes in 2014 and became the first media agency to ever win gold lions. Congratulations, Jasmine. In 2015, Jasmine became the proud recipient of WZCC Global Award. She also appears frequently on key television business shows. Jasmine, would you like to proceed now with the introduction?
Yes, thanks, Meher. That was very generous of you. So generations of media planners, buyers, media owners have entered the industry looking up to you with admiration, Sam. I too am one of them. It's an absolute honor and delight to be asked to introduce Sam Balsara to this audience today. Thank you, WZCC and Meher, for this opportunity. Our industry has always been blessed with great talent and an opportunity to learn and work with the best. Young entrants come in with an opportunity to work with some of the most creative minds in the industry or with the top media agencies and their clients and brands. And then, if you were really smart and you planned your entry into advertising very well, you had the opportunity to work with the very best the industry has to offer. And experience firsthand working with a self-made, extremely driven, business-focused veteran, Sam Balsara, Chairman and Managing Director, Madison World. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you, Jasmine.
I clearly missed that opportunity to work with you, but I did interact with you closely on clients that we shared and on industry committees that you chaired. The time we have today is not sufficient to talk about Sam's achievements and recognition. I think it would be enough to say if there is any industry ranking or recognition, Sam is #1 on that list always. I would rather talk about what makes Sam the success he is. I first interacted with Sam at a client we both shared and worked on Procter and Gamble. I would tag along with my boss and we would enter the office and head straight to the marketing director's cabin. Sam would be there in the outside common areas, going from workstation to workstation, interacting with everyone from the billing clerk to the brand manager to the executive assistant and even the tea boy. Sam knew everyone well. And I don't believe that he did this only while he was waiting for his meeting with a client. I was convinced Sam actually came in a good 30 to 45 minutes ahead of his scheduled meeting just so he could spend time outside with all these people. With that, Sam just not earned the client's professional respect, but more importantly, he earned their love. And that goes a longer way to a lasting relationship in an otherwise very cost driven, very cost sensitive industry of ours. To me, that's who Sam is, a person very generous with his time to his people, to his clients, and most importantly, to our industry. Sam has always been very generous with his time to our industry on issues that impact everyone, all stakeholders, not only his agency or our industry, but the clients, the media owners, everyone. He never shies away from any industry challenge, never calls to say he doesn't have time for us, always shows up with boundless energy and positivity. And not just making time for the industry and clients, I had the opportunity to also meet Sam with his family. And it amazes me how well he manages his work and family life balance, something most of us find hard to do. Which brings me to Lara. Lara is the executive director of Madison World. Lara did not take the easy or the obvious route into entry into advertising. After her initial training and initiation, she focused her energy on diversification of the Madison Group. And with that, Lara provides the perfect yin to the Madison Yang. With a focus on digital retail analytics, Lara entered Madison, ensured that Madison stays always relevant and future ready. One of her key focuses was to strengthen the digital offering of Madison. She did that very successfully, attracting some of the best digital talent of the industry. With both Sam and Madison being such strong brands, Lara carved her own unique role and contributed by adding new dimensions to the business, keeping Madison fresh and contemporary. And with that, Lara earned her own credentials independently in the industry. Today, Madison World is a strong, diversified communications group with a multi-market footprint. And it's not surprising that Lara ranks high on every list of influential media and marketing professionals. Welcome, Lara. Welcome again, Sam. Wish you
Thank
both
you.
all the success.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Jasmine. That was a wonderful introduction for Sam and for Lara. And now I would like to invite Nozer Buchia to start the talk show with Sam and Lara. Talking about Nozer, he is an entrepreneur with 44 years of international experience in building, managing, and growing corporations. He is an internationally acclaimed speaker, author of 3 books, and a transformational business and life coach. Founder of GLUES, a global leadership university for development, entrepreneurship, and strategy. He owns and manages a private real estate lending investment company, and he is a partner of an exclusive lending platform catering to 100% funding for organizations worldwide. Nozer has joined live from Houston. Nozer, the floor is all yours. You may begin the talk show.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much. Jasmine, I think that was a fantastic introduction to Sam and Lara, and I don't think anybody would have done a better job than you have. So let me set the stage. There are going to be lots of questions that will come up along the session as well. But I want to set the stage first for our viewers, some of them who do not know the intricacies of Sam and Lara. So first of all, second largest media agency in India, the 5th largest independent advertising agency in the world, approximately 900 full-time workers, 500 clients in India, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Economic Times has rated them the second largest. And what Sam has achieved and what Lara has achieved has been absolutely spectacular. But let me, and I'm gonna, there is something that most people do not know about what Sam has done in the advertising world. He has shocked the media world, and I'm gonna keep that right till the end to hear it from Sam's own words. 10 years ago, he did something that was unheard of in the world of media and advertising, one that shocked the media world, and I will talk about it later. But Sam, let me start by asking you this. I know you originally, hail from Balsar. You did your primary schooling in Gujarat. From Gujarat to advertising is a long journey, Sam. Take us through that journey.
Yes, that's true. My early years when I was a kid, in fact, until sixth standard, was in Balsar. But it's only in later years in advertising that actually I've come to recognize that for people in the communication business, I feel it's an advantage to have spent a few years, especially in a small town in India. Now, I say this because I think city folk, you know, tend to camouflage their persona. Whereas in small towns, everybody knows everyone else. There's no place for any kind of smoothing over or camouflaging or trying to be something else. And everybody's real emotions and the real person comes out. Now, I think this is very important for a communications person and advertising person, because then you get to understand what drives individuals in a society, what makes them, how they think, what makes them buy, what makes them not buy, what what kind of thing would appeal to them. So I have come to recognize that actually starting off life in a small town in India is actually a big advantage. And in fact, today in India, if you see the two leading creative heads of creative agencies, Piyush Pandey and my other friend Lara, what's his, Prasoon Joshi, both actually have their origins in small town India. In
So
fact,
Sam, let
many,
me ask you,
yes,
Sam, let me ask you this. When you say small town, Balsar today is no longer a small town. It's a
yes, but
huge
I mean,
city. But
relative. I mean, relative to India and the metropolitan cities of Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, Calcutta, Madras, Kanpur. All those kind of. It still has a kind of a small town approach mentality. The people are different. They think a little differently. Of course, it must have changed rapidly now.
but
And
years ago when you started 30, 35 years ago, why did you want to become an entrepreneur? When everybody goes for a job, what made you strive for entrepreneurship?
well, that's a good question. Actually, I must confess on your platform, which is for entrepreneurship, that I did not really have a dying ambition to start a business of my own or to become an entrepreneur. And I was quite happy actually chugging along in Mudra. I was doing reasonably well for myself and for Mudra, the agency. Uh, but somewhere, I think it got into my head that in those days, uh, that a good agency is a small agency with a few large clients. A small agency with a few large clients. That was my kind of, that I thought was an ideal agency. And Mudra, after its initial success, you know, modestly, I must say, which I contributed, soon, because of its Ambani heritage, developed the ambition that they should be the largest agency in India. Why should a multinational agency be the largest in India? So, we used to have frequent meetings of what should be done for Mudra to grow leaps and bounds so that JWT, then the reigning #1 agency, could be overthrown. And that somehow did not appeal to me. And though in those days, even till today, I must say that I remain a craftsman at heart and not really a manager. And what tends to happen in a large organization as you go up, and more so in an advertising agency, as you go up, you get more and more removed from the nuts and bolts of the business. And you just become a manager of men and materials and money and time management and HR issues and all those kind of things, rather than getting your hands dirty with the actual creativity or media planning or whatever other things the client has come to you for. So that made me sort of almost, you could say, overnight switch. I had taken 1 week off, I remember, for my Tanya and Lara's Navjot, and something worked in my mind, and I said, why don't I start on my own? And I must say that I had a very easy start. An agency that existed that was not doing too well, called Madison, owned by a Parsi gentleman, Firoz Elavia, then fell in my lap. It already had the necessary accreditation. I went to two of my largest clients, Godrej and Nelco, which was a Tata company, and both of them readily agreed to move their accounts to this not born agency. And it so happened that around that time was March 21st. So I decided to start the agency on March 21st. And I think on March 22nd was our first release. So it was really very smooth sailing for Madison in the first, I would say, 6-7 years.
That is very commendable. It is always said, and I state this even in my books, that you never fix your weakness, you always strengthen your strength. And that is something that I have seen you do, Sam, over the years. And you spoke about something falling in your lap. I think this is a good segment to move into Lara, because she also fell into your lap years and years ago. So let me move to Lara. Lara is the executive director. She's got 16 years of work at Madison. And Lara did her master's in marketing from England. Dad had the company, daughter came in, but did not start from the top.
Yeah.
She started as a management trainee, and she was in client servicing, creative advertising. She started ground up, and today she is where she is. So Lara, let me ask you this. Most children do not want to work with their parents. Why are you so different? What made you decide that you want to work with dad?
I think, things just fell into place. I mean, since he had started Madison when we were like, 7 years old, advertising was always discussed at home. I mean, advertising is like the highs are exaggerated and so are the lows exaggerated. So I've grown up, dinner table conversations have been around advertising. So I guess it was quite just natural for me to get into advertising, and that's why then I decided to do my master's in marketing. And like you said, things just fell into place.
So let me continue with the same conversation, Lara. Now that you've moved on from a management trainee to becoming the executive director, age and experience catches up with all of us. Uh, how do you see Madison today versus how you saw Madison when you actually started? How critical are you of the change over the 16 years that you've been associated with the company?
Oh, I think we are totally different compared to what we were 16 years ago. I think our industry is such that, we have to constantly evolve, not just Madison, any ad agency for that matter. So I think when I started out, we had our creative business, our media business, PR, and maybe outdoor and rural. So what that was, 5 businesses. Today we have 24 businesses across 11 functional areas. So we have diversified into various offerings for clients. And I think also the other main change is also in our industry itself. Like, let's say 16 years ago, digital would have been like probably 1% of the total advertising market. Today it is at 30%. So, we are also forced to evolve. You can't, I mean, if Madison were to operate the same way we operated 16 years ago, then probably by now we would not have existed. So I think if you're in this business, you have to continuously evolve and change with the changing times.
No, that is very, very correct. Sam, what about when you, 30 years, 35 years ago, when you did this, yes, you said it was an easy ride, Sam, but what about the setbacks in the early years of Madison? Tell us about one of your first setbacks that you had and how did you overcome it, Sam?
Well, actually, the first very major setback came, I think, somewhere in 96 or 97. And to some extent, I think it was self-imposed. You know, at that time, but to tell you very briefly, my largest client was Godrej. And actually, they tied up, which came as a surprise to me, with Procter and Gamble. You know, Procter and Gamble in our business has the reputation of being the world's largest advertiser, and they made a sort of technology of the advertising creation and media planning and media buying and all of that. So that is how actually I came in contact with P&G, and P&G actually persuaded us to tie up with a global agency called DMB&B because they wanted us to handle some P&G brands in addition to Synthol. But that tie-up was short-lived. I found that that the agency, the global agency, was beginning to take us for granted, not recognize, what we were bringing to the table, although the client was really appreciative of what we were doing. And, I could see that there was a kind of attempt to sort of buy us over as fast as possible and without adequate compensation. They also tried a few tricks of trying to modify the original agreement. And I gathered courage to say no to them. I said, look, this is how it is. I think we either stick to the agreement or I don't agree. So we parted company with them. And I think at that time, in the initial year, I would say, it did look like I had met my debacle. And that was the stupidest move that I had made because I lost 70% of my business. I lost handling the P&G brand. Soon after that, I lost Synthol, my largest client with which I was associated, and things went a little haywire. I remember at that time when I was down, I wouldn't say I was out. I remember hearing on CNBC, which was very new then, a Southeast Asian gentleman say that, real success can come only after real failure. So I thought, I have been through real failure. So now real success must be on its way. And indeed, I think it was. So in hindsight, I would say it was a good thing that I broke that partnership, uh, because I think we were able to recover very soon. I think we were already beginning to be recognized for our media prowess. More and more clients and even global clients began to recognize us for our media strengths and started coming to us. So very soon we were back and we actually crossed, the figures that we were with the global agency. So that
You
I
know,
will say,
the laws of business and the laws of entrepreneurship always tell you, and you are a prime example of that, that a real successful person is whose comeback is greater than whose setback. And I think you have proven that in the media and advertising world, that your comeback has been absolutely tremendous. After losing 70% of the business, most people would have packed up shop and gone to Marine Drive and just taken a walk over there. But you did not do that. You actually defeated the laws of business. And talking about the laws, Sam, let me touch upon this. Lara, when you were in Houston, in one of the meetings, you had mentioned about the 10 immutable laws of Madison, and you had touched upon that. Let's
Yeah.
count the 10 laws. What are the 10 laws? What makes Madison so great?
Yes, so I think that was, I think, 10 years ago. So, in advertising, there is this very nice book called The 22 Immutable Laws of Advertising by Al Rice and Laura Rice. So I think this was when I had just started working at Madison. And based on that, I came up with this theme of like the 10 immutable laws of Madison. I'll take you through a few of them. I won't take you through all. So I think the first law is the law of disadvantage. So why we say disadvantage is because we believe we are a small Indian company and all our competitors are, at least even in India, are all multinational clients, multinational agencies. Sorry. So we believe it's an advantage to feel that you are at a disadvantage because then you work much harder and you're forced to innovate. So that's one law of disadvantage. The other law is the law of focus. So I think we were very clear from day one that our focus is on advertising and communication related services, and we'll enter into only those businesses which help the client with their communication needs. Like over the years, we've got fairly attractive offers to venture into other non-communication areas, but we felt we shouldn't get into those and focus on our core business of communication services. The next law is actually a fairly new law. I think I did not cover that in when I was in Houston, but it's the law of change. Like I mentioned earlier, like our business is continuously evolving and so is the world continuously evolving. And all of us have seen in these last 10 months since March how, I mean, the world came to a grinding halt and overnight everyone had to work from home. So you continuously have to evolve. So you can't just say that, no, this is what you will do and stick to it. You have to broaden your horizon and do all sorts of things to stay relevant. So like Madison, like when Madison started, so we were like a full service agency, so everything was done within one agency where from the creative to the media planning to the PR to the event, everything was done by that one company. Then slowly as the trend of specialization got in, we diversified into newer different areas. So we started Madison Media, the media business, which did only media planning and buying. Then that way we started other specialist units. Then this whole digital transformation came about. So there was a major push on digitization. Today, the key word is also collaboration, right? You can't just have your specialist units. Today, a key to success is you have to learn to collaborate with other specialists units. So that way, we have also continuously evolved our approach and our strategy, and that's how we are able to cross-sell our services to the 500 odd clients that we have. Okay, the next law is the law of growth. So unfortunately, in business, you need to grow, and only if you grow can you invest in better equipment, better services, invest in get the right people for your businesses. So all businesses need to grow, but at the same time, we have a law of patience. So we've always been focused on growing slowly and steadily. Like if you look at our graph over the last 32 years, it's a very gradual graph. It doesn't go zigzag, zigzag. So I think that's something that we've been also conscious of not like growing too fast and then having a dip and then growing again and that sort of a thing. So we believe in a stable, steady growth. Yeah, so I think these are some of the laws. There was another law of organization building, especially in our business. It's very important because it's a complete people business. We don't have any manufacturing and plants and machinery. So we are only as good as the people that we have. So focusing on building a professional organization, or organization that we ourselves would be proud to work in had we not owned it. I think that's also quite important and has seen us, these are some of the few things that we feel have worked for us.
So Lara, being in a service-oriented business like yours, and most of the people that have joined in, probably professionals or business people as well, or entrepreneurs, we all understand that when you're in a service-oriented business, everything becomes a crisis. I
Yeah.
mean, everything is a crisis. I mean, suddenly something happens and you drop everything and it becomes a crisis. And that scares a lot of entrepreneurs away. They say, well, I have a job. I don't want to move from my job. I don't want to take this uncertainty. What advice would you give a young entrepreneur who wants to give up his job or her job and get into this uncertain, unforgiving world of business? What advice would you give them?
I think first you need to be reasonably confident that you have a good service offering or a product offering to warrant you starting your entrepreneurial journey. I think that's the number one factor. I think then you also have to have a sufficient amount of capital, because I mean you have to plan for all sorts of eventualities. So I think, and then I think it's just confidence that you can do it. And I think we as Parsis are a little lucky, I would say, thanks to this organization like WZCC, that which has, an entrepreneur can get access to so many talented senior advice from entrepreneurs. And actually, I think WZCC has other problems of there are not enough takers for this advice. So I think in that sense, we as Parsis are a little lucky when it comes to starting an entrepreneurial journey. Of course, let me tell you, it is quite difficult and challenging. But of course, the rewards, I think, far outweigh the challenges.
I think if it was easy, I think anybody could have done it. But there in the Balsara family, I think between you and Sam, you guys are really icons in what you've done. And one of the major issues that most people have is always financing, and they always believe, okay, hey, we don't have the money, we don't know how to start. And I can say this confidently because today we have built a platform which does 100% financing of all projects worldwide.
Okay.
And the reason we started this is exactly what you said, Lara, is because the uncertainty ultimately comes to, do I have the money to do it? So we have started something which we want to take to the world. And that culture about, don't worry about financing, we can give you 100% money.
Hmm.
And we have started that, and we'll bring that to WZCC at some point in time as well. But Sam, this is, I think, a good segment for you to comment on this. And I repeat again, 10 years ago, most of you do not know this, but Sam shocked the media world. He shocked the media industry because in the media industry, there are 6 large global media groups in the world, and one of them is the worldwide giant WPP. And at some point in time, the world thought that Sam was in negotiations with WPP to sell medicine to them, but Sam surprised the world. So I'm going to ask Sam to tell us How did he surprise the world? Sam, what did you do that nobody else could have done in your situation with Madison?
Well, let me not take all the credit. I think I just got also a little bit lucky, and probably being a good Parsi, I think I was also a little stubborn and a little eccentric. And I think that helped. What actually happened is that WPP under the then head Martin Sorrell was extremely acquisitive. And I must say, he's a shrewd and sharp guy. He's been in touch with me over the last 25 years on a first name basis, on a call basis over the years, despite all his, busy businesses in over 100 countries. And he was constantly after me to, give WPP a small stake in Madison. And I did not say no. I just said, Martin, the time is not right. Wanted to keep my cards open, shall we say that. And just then, as my luck would have it, I think PNG, my, of course, large client, also decided to call a pitch. Now, the PNG account is a very prized account for global agencies, and especially if you are a roster agency of PNG, then you want to handle PNG in India. So therefore, WPP was very keen and felt that if they partnered with Madison and Sam, they would get an automatic inroad into PNG. So when I absolutely refused to give them a stake in Madison, they made this preposterous offer to me, which even at first I found a little difficult to believe. They said, okay, look, if you are not willing to give us a stake, why don't you buy a stake in Madison, in Mediacom, which is, our agency and which globally handles PNG, and both of us will together, pitch for the PNG business. Now, that began to make sense to me. What they started offering me was first, a minority stake of 26%. I think I got a little emboldened by their offer, and I said, no, I must have 51% because I'm the guy in India. I have the relationship with PNG. I'm going to run the business, so I should own 51%. I think I got a bit lucky. They agreed. So that is how, we started a new company as a 51-49 joint venture. That Mediacom already was a successful agency. Unfortunately, Jasmine had heralded its success, but then Jasmine left, and I think the agency was not exactly doing too well without Jasmine. And they thought, perhaps they thought that a good solution was to get me involved to shore up the fortunes of Mediacom. And I must say they were right, because I think this partnership has worked brilliantly. One of the things I had to concede is that, after I had said after 10 years, I would give up majority. We negotiated and brought it down to 7 years. So we agreed to give them majority after 7 years. 7 years are over, and we have given them now majority. We own 26% in Mediacom. But I must say, the success of Mediacom has opened my mind to the fact that sometimes ownership is not important. I mean, if a guy like Martin Sorrell could give up ownership of Mediacom to me, actually he was, I think, the real winner, because I think 7 years is a short time in an organization's life. All said and done, in 7 years, today he's sitting on a far stronger Mediacom and with PNG in his pocket, which I think is good for Mediacom. So sometimes I think you have to give to get.
Absolutely.
And I think it worked for me, worked for Madison too, because it did, I must confess, it did give a leg up to Madison and our reputation, because, you know, it was a sort of a surprising deal. Many of my close friends in the industry thought that I had done a secret deal with WPP where I've agreed to sell Madison to them sometime in the future. But there was no such deal or no such commitment ever made.
So, you know, Sam, you touched upon so many things, and I must commend you and congratulate you because, you know, being the Jiddi Parsi that we most people are, it actually helped you to go ahead. So, Lara, let's take a step back and let's ask you this question.
Yeah.
16 years in Madison, what do you think are the top 2 or 3 reasons for Madison's success? And before you answer the question, you are talking as an executive director, not as a daughter. So if you have to criticize your dad, this is the time to do it, please.
So I think one of the main reasons is our very strong client focus. So I think were very clear from day one, and this is something that has been driven by Sam all the way down. Of, you know, I mean, we exist because of our clients. So I mean, everything that we do is revolves around the clients. It's always the clients come first and then everything else follows. So I think that's one, I would say that's one main reason. And that's why when we look back now, even now when I see we have so many clients that have been with us for such a long period of time, like Godrej, what Madison started with. We don't do the creative work, but we still do the media work. Like there are other clients who've been with us for 15, 16, 17 years as well. So I think if you were to ask me one thing, this would be it. But since you've asked me three, I think the other one would be a very strong value system of, you know, honesty, integrity, dealing, doing good for our clients, for our people, being honest and upfront, not trying to take anyone for a ride. And the third would be having and attracting a good set of people at the senior level, junior level, mid level, and then also empowering those people to drive their own businesses. I think that also becomes very, very important, because sometimes, you know, what happens when you're an entrepreneur, you tend to want to control everything yourself. But I think in our business, we are as good as the people that we have. So I think empowering them is extremely important and critical.
And I think
Those
in any organization, one of the most important things for success is, you know, like you alluded to earlier, you never run a company. You know, you organize the people, and the people run the company for you.
Yes,
And
yeah.
that is the culture. It's the culture that you and Sam have both built. Now, tell me one thing. I'm a little confused, and it'll enlighten the rest of the viewers as well. You and Sam have both talked about media and advertising interchangeably. What is the real difference in your world between media and advertising?
Lara, you want to take this?
Okay, so advertising is, at least when we say advertising, it's the creative part of it. So when a client decides that he wants to spend a certain amount of money, the advertising department will come up with the strategy as to what they have to say, who they have to say it to, and then they will come up with the ad. So the advertising business actually creates the ad that you see on TV or on a hoarding or a press ad. Media is a separate department, because media, some clients have extremely large budgets of 200 crores, 500 crores, 600 crores. So that requires a lot of proper planning, and then planning based on who they want to reach out to, what is the best way to reach out to those people, because, you know, there's so much of media available. There are like hundreds of TV channels, so many print publications, and everything is like, there's a science behind all the numbers and how you're reaching to a particular target audience. And then there's a whole different part of media buying where, because you're buying so much money, you have to have the best deal, the best rate, that sort of a thing. So that's media. And then of course we have other units like public relations, outdoor advertising, digital advertising, events, activations, celebrity management, sports management. Those are different. These, I mean, these are the two broad things of advertising and media.
No, that's a very good explanation. So I am going to ask you a very critical question, and I trust you will give us a very honest answer. If tomorrow you were given the reins to run Madison completely, what would you do different from Sam?
Well, I wouldn't do things too differently, because if I thought he was doing something which wasn't in the best interest of Madison, I would have told him so in the first place. But I think maybe I would react to things and events that happen around us a little more differently. I think he's a lot more attached and takes, I think, everything a little too personally. So I think that's the way I react to things would be different and less personal.
So are you telling me that Sam is more emotional and you are more unattached?
Absolutely.
Yes, I guess so when it comes to his work, because I think this is his first baby.
I thought you guys were the first babies. So Sam, let me take this to you now. You know, we've seen what you've done over the years, and again, you know, you have been voted as the second largest media agency in India. You are fifth largest independent advertising agency in the world. You've done everything so well. You said you were lucky. You know, Madison fell into your lap. You had a setback, and as I mentioned, comeback was greater than the setback. So we commend you, you know, for what you have done, and Lara for what you have supported him. So Sam, let us say if you were to start advertising, and if you were to start media, or if you were to start an equivalent of Madison all over again, what would you do differently, Sam?
Well, I think the first thing that I would do very different is I don't know if I mentioned this, that, you know, I have been a little possibly too cautious and too patient. So, for example, I don't know if I mentioned, for the first 5 years of Madison's life, you know, I did not take on a third client. So we started with Godrej and Nelco. It's not that clients didn't come to us or we were not invited to pitches, but I just said, no, I kind of first, I was afraid that I would not do justice to my two founding clients, or I was afraid of letting them down. You know, I was afraid of hiring more people and delegating to them, because I thought, you know, nobody else could do it as safely and as wisely as I could, or at least my clients would want me involved in that decision rather than me delegate it to someone else. And those kind of, I think, false concerns, if I may say today in hindsight, I mean, they were false. So I think the second thing was that I think I was maybe too high on patience. I think, of course, the world has also changed. You know, it was a different world in the 90s. Even India changed dramatically around the turn of the century with the opening up of the economy. You know, remember I said that in 1988, I went about saying that a good agency is a small agency with a few large clients. I mean, in today's world, that's a laughable statement, because, you know, everybody and his uncle wants to be bigger and stronger. And today, big is beautiful. There was a time when actually big was bad and small was beautiful. So things have changed, but I would say that I think I should have focused a little more on Madison's strategy for growth. I think even today we focus more on strategies for our clients' growth. We don't focus enough on Madison's own strategy for growth. You know, by and large, I think growth of Madison has been a byproduct of client satisfaction rather than we driving a conscious strategy. I suppose all the other larger agencies have strategy meetings and all that for their own growth. We don't do as much of that as we should be.
No, I think you are, again, it takes a lot of courage to actually admit that you were afraid, and you actually said that you were fearful. It takes a lot of courage to actually admit that, and I commend you once more for saying that. You know, there is one thing that I have noticed in the years that I have been an entrepreneur, and that is everything that we want as entrepreneurs is always on the other side of the word fear. And it is the word fear that is a wall that is built that prevents you from going to the next step. And I think it is our job to encourage the youth of today to say entrepreneurship, yes, it is tough, as Lara mentioned. Yes, you have to go through uncertainties in life. But I think that Madison, Sam Balsara, Lara Balsara, you guys have created what I would call a image in the industry. And that image is that, yes, you fail, you fall, but you get back up. As the great, boxer Muhammad Ali had once said, you never lose when you fall, you lose when you stay down. So you have not stayed down. You have always got back up. And I liked what Lara said earlier as well, is that, the digital age has taken over. New things and new products and new services are coming out in the business. But I think, Sam, you have run the company very successfully. You are giving a lot of hope to young entrepreneurs worldwide. And I really commend you and salute you for what you've done in your journey and for taking on Lara and grooming her into it. And, you've always put your customers first, you've put your employees first, which is very, very, very commendable. And I have to congratulate both you and Lara on the success of Madison. And we wish you years and years of, more and more success on time to come. So congratulations once again to you, Lara.
Thank you, Nauza.
And to Madison as well. And if there's anything we can do to support you and help you in any way, please do let us know, and we will always be there for you.
Thank you so much.
Over to you, Mayor.
You're on mute.
Mayor, over to you.
Mayor?
I think she's on mute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Noza, that was a wonderful show you hosted. And Sam and Lara, you have given us a masterclass on advertising and media. What else can I say? Beautiful show. And that brings us to the next segment. And I would like to invite Persis Setna to do the Q&A session. Talking about Persis, he is currently the director of business change services at his own consultancy, PRT Partners Limited, with well-known clients including Currys and Card Phone Warehouse. Prior to that, he was the director product development across 180 countries at BT Global Services. Persis has been an active member of Zoroastrian Trust Funds of Europe and WZCC for many years, and he's an alumnus of Imperial College London and INSEAD School in France. Persis is the Global Director of WZCC in London. Persis, the floor is all yours and you can ask as many questions as possible to Sam.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you, Sam and Lara
Hi,
and
Persis.
Noza. Thank you for a very wide-ranging conversation. We come to the quick fire round now with lots of questions from the audience who all are giving lots of very interesting comments and congratulations, by the way. So I'll try and do that in the next 10 or so minutes, okay? So let's start off with our very own Rustam engineer. Rustam is asking you, Sam, did being a Zarathusti help you during the difficult periods in the dog-eat-dog world of advertising?
Yes, I think it did. I mean, Rustam, thanks for that question. My mind goes back to the time when we had won in 2014, the time of our Indian parliamentary election, the massive BJP account, and BJP came into power with a little bit of help from us. And I remember on a Sunday morning, I flew down to Delhi to meet the late Arun Jaitley. And he had a very nice conversation with me. And one of the things he did say in that conversation is that I'm sure you're a good Parsi, so our business will be safe and you will help us win.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So I think that was a specific comment. Otherwise, I think from time to time, different people have kind of told me, especially I think more people in the Western world. I think when I say Western, India's West, like, you know, Bombay and Gujarat and all that, because they're a little more familiar with the Parsi community. And I see a certain kind of affinity where they feel a little more safe or comfortable, you know, with my advice. Probably at the back of their mind, they have that being a good Parsi, I'm not going to do something with a vested interest in mind, but give them objective advice.
Yes, and that's very special, very special. Lara, you may wish to add something to that. And also, Jasmine Sarabji is asking you, Lara, did you ever think about working for a short stint at another agency to get a different perspective?
So actually, in hindsight, I do think I did make a mistake by just starting off at Madison from day one. I think, yes, if I had worked somewhere else, especially, I think it might have been difficult to work in another agency in India, because I'm not sure if anyone would have given me a job. But I think if I had worked internationally in some agency, I think it would have helped. So in hindsight, yes, I do think I should have done that.
Okay, all right. Well, we can always learn. By the way, quick comment from Kathleen Mystery saying the story of your company is so interesting. I admire your commitment to building such a respectable company, always putting your clients first. May 2021 bring much growth for Madison. So you've got lots of good thinking, good thoughts here.
Thank you.
Another comment from Beram Pastakia. Perhaps you might both just share one key thing. You've mentioned something already, but one key thing about the culture of Madison that's special to you. Can you think of one thing that you'd like to mention?
Well, I think I'd like to believe that we don't really have a hierarchical structure. I mean, I'd like to believe that Sam is not the boss, but Sam is everybody's friend within Madison. And I think it has been like that from day one. I must say probably today it's a little less so, but I should think I still try and maintain some kind of a personal contact with maybe not all 900 of Madisonites, but at least 100 Madisonites. Some personal contact is there, and to all of them, I'm just Sam.
Okay, so very collegiate. Okay, would you agree, Lara? And what's special about the culture for you?
Yeah, I think what Sam says, I agree with. Like, it's a very, I mean, everyone knows like focusing on doing the client work is the most important thing. So everyone just gets on with it and does whatever is in the best interest of their clients who they are servicing.
Fantastic. Okay, and that's relevant to that. Smita Xerxes Amtia has said, this question's for Lara. How do you resolve conflicts and disagreements with your dad when you both don't agree on something? You can be frank. We're amongst friends.
I guess I can only give him my point of
Yes.
view, but I think ultimately the decision is his. Sometimes, I mean, I am successful in changing his mind.
Okay, all right, we'll keep going.
I think I'd like to say very often and more so of late, Lara manages to have her way. And I think I'm happy to give her that way.
Yes, perhaps she's made you think it is your way, Sam. That might be a special quality you've generated. Anyway, so let's move to other things. A family-owned business, obviously a very successful model of businesses for Parsees through the ages. In the modern times, what are the pluses and minuses of having a family-run business, do you think, when you're thinking of a growth business and so on? What are the pluses and minuses, do you think?
Well, we'd like to think that it's not really a family-run business. So, you know, I've made sure that besides Sam and Lara, at the central level, you know, there's only Sam and Lara. Everybody else, you know, in our what we call executive committee is a diehard professional and a specialist who is hired for only the reason that he's an expert at what he does. So, and I think most of the decisions are taken entirely on merit. And in fact, I would say decisions today in public listed companies may be taken in the interest of shareholders, but actually in Madison, the shareholders' interest comes the last.
Right.
And, you know, because we are privately owned, we have the luxury of taking that decision and sacrifice the promoter's interest, which very often public listed companies cannot do because, you know, they are hired professionals to protect the interest of the shareholders. So that, I must say, is one unique advantage we have of being private and relatively small.
Fantastic. Okay, very opposite of the VC culture, I'm sure. Okay, we'll keep going quickly because there's so many things. By the way, Edel is saying fantastic presentation, brilliant minds. Thank you for committing so much time in helping WZCC in so many ways. Sheila Coley saying congratulations, such a fascinating webinar. Enjoyed following your journey. Let's ask another question here. A couple of related questions. Redme is saying if a person is not from an advertising industry, but say they're from the law or a doctor, if in their interest they want to commence an advertising business, what could they do to promote and advertise their agency and convince clients to work with that new startup? Slightly different approach. Lara, perhaps you can start with that one. How do you get into advertising from other professions?
So I think generally people don't get into advertising if they are not from that background. But having said that, I think the best bet would be to start small, start with one client and do outstanding work for that client, which really helps the client improve its sales, its results, or whatever that campaign set out to achieve. And after that, I mean, the rest is history. So I think the focus should be on getting that one client.
Okay, very good. Okay, I'll keep moving fast. This is one thing that's really interesting to me. I mean, you're clearly very well-respected stalwarts of the Parsee community. It means a lot to you in your tradition. So ethics and business together are obviously very, very important things, especially today. So starting with a couple of quick points. For example, I think you took on the Geo Parsee promotion, you know, promoting families and children. obviously very successful. Obviously, some controversy about perhaps it was a little regressive. Was it difficult for you were you in two minds about taking on such a project?
Well, I think as I get older, I think I am getting a little more community conscious, and I think I like to believe that if I can help, I should. I think especially currently living in Bombay, I must say everything that's going on around me in the community deeply saddens me. I
Right.
think GeoParsi is a wonderful initiative, free of any controversy, or by and large free of any controversy. And I think it's a very good thing that happened to the Parsi community. Although I
Yes.
do think somewhere that it's a little shameful that this initiative actually came from the government of India, and
Yeah.
it was not the Parsis' own initiative. And the
Yes.
government of India approached the Parsis saying, hey guys, how about doing something about it?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
And
I
we
guess
are
we had
here to help you.
very good. Yes, I guess we had Parzor to help. I mean, related to that, and Lara, perhaps with a view to obviously children and so on. I mean, would you consider, for example, branding our Parsi community to enthuse our youth in the future? Would that be something you'd take on? And what kind of values would you put in your campaign?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think there are already some organizations focusing on the youth,
Yeah.
and I think that talking to the youth, I think you can't have a very preachy, campaign. It has to be more fun and lively. And I think only, I mean, we all know, right? I mean, if you
Yeah.
tell a youth or an adolescent something, they're not going to really listen. So it has to be something that they realize internally on their own.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Sam, any thoughts on the brand values you would suggest?
Yes, I think I have been advocating for some time that we should treat the Parsi community as a very valuable brand. And I think all of us have a responsibility that as we partake of the benefits of this brand, I think we have a responsibility to contribute to that brand equity. And
Yes.
I think, therefore, what saddens me is that, unfortunately, I think thanks to social media, I think one.
Oops, sorry, you've frozen there for a second, Sam. Maybe social media has frozen us out, Mayor, just at that very point.
I think
That's
he'll
And all
join
that,
back.
at least in the, I wish I could, wave a magic wand and make Parsis, especially in Bombay, understand that they're doing a huge service and doing a huge damage to the brand equity of the Parsi community by thoughtlessly doing what they're doing.
Okay. Well, look, I'm sure people on this call hopefully will take this up with you. Actually, it sounds fascinating. And you're right, rights and obligations go together, don't they? Okay, let me just ask you, you mentioned social media. A couple of questions going towards that line between good ethics and good business. Would there ever be, in this brand and in this kind of culture identity war that many of us find ourselves in the West and in democracies, would there ever be a campaign that you're asked to take on that you just wouldn't, because it's a point of view that you wouldn't agree with? For example, anti-vaxxers in the West saying, don't take the COVID vaccine. If they came to you and said, please promote, the truth about anti-vax, would you just say no?
I think we would, because I think we have the liberty, or shall I say the luxury, because if it's something that we strongly believe is, not honest, then I think I wouldn't do it. And by that, mind you, I don't believe that, liquor advertising or cigarette advertising is bad. In fact,
Right.
I think our Indian government is being hypocritical because they're happy allowing manufacturers to manufacture cigarettes and manufacture liquor so that they can collect hefty excises, but
Yes.
then they don't allow them to advertise, which I really think is hypocritical. And
Yes.
advertising for these products should be allowed, maybe with some restrictions like after 10 p.m. and stuff like that. So
Yes.
actually, I strongly condemn what is happening in India today, what goes by the name of surrogate advertising or extension advertising. All liquor companies have come up with playing cards and events, and they taught those as being legitimate business extensions, and then they advertise a soda or glasses or playing cards or music cassettes, but the real intention is actually to promote liquor. But
Understood. Yes.
unfortunately, our rules are such that it's not easy to allow liquor advertising in the country.
Okay, I mean, I guess in fact it's a very, in fact, I know Lara, you went to the UWE in the UK. I guess as part of the course, there would be a huge part of that would be about business ethics. Is this something, for example, that you might discuss at your boards often? And do you put these points, because they're very grey areas, aren't they? So do you have heated discussions at your board tables about ethics of things like this? And Lara, would you suggest that?
To be honest, it's not that big a issue for us. And as Sam said, advertising unfortunately is quite regulated in India. So there are many things that you anyway can't advertise, like one is liquor, there's cigarettes, there's I think even gambling. So
Yes.
to be honest, we've not really discussed it because we've not come across a situation where, we've had to take a tough call of whether should we take on this client or not take on this client.
Okay, fine. Well, look, we've got so many questions. I'm just going to push on for a couple more minutes. One deeper question. Again, Sam, you were talking about it. We slightly missed you for a minute on the social media aspects, but there is a duality, isn't there, between the advertising industry and the social media industry? Because of course, social media is funded through advertising. And of course, it's a force for good in connecting people, but also there are some negatives like self-image amongst young people, privacy, fake news, etc. Given that you're leaders in your industry, do you think there's anything you can do from an advertiser's and from an advertising agency point of view to limit the negative impacts of social media and enhance the positives?
So I believe we can do a few things. Of course, a lot of things we cannot do. One of the things that I'm personally trying to push is that, on social media, when there is a sponsored post or a post that is funded by an advertiser, we want a little red button or a little mark or little something to indicate to the reader that this is a paid post.
Yeah.
So, because, today it is becoming very difficult for a viewer or reader to make out what is paid for by an advertiser and what is either a genuine complaint or genuine praise for a product. So I hope we'll be able to push this through our ASCII regulations. And I think this would go a long way in building consumer confidence. I must tell you that, we in the advertising industry are sort of extremely conscious that in recent years, thanks to digital and social media and all that, the credibility of advertising broadly is a little lower than what it was in the past. And it's not in our interest and not in the advertiser's interest to have this credibility be on the wane. In fact, we want to take active steps to improve this credibility, because it's important that advertising works for everyone and that advertising only says the truth. In fact, it's the advertising and marketing industry that set up our Advertising Standards Council way back in 1985. I've been its chairman, and currently I serve as an advisor to this body. So we are all very keen that the credibility of advertising, should not go down. In fact, it should rise.
Right, absolutely. Okay, and ASCI, I know, is a very important body. Okay, well, I'm going to come to the final questions. I'll just read you a couple of things from the chat box. Hopefully we can give you a copy of this, because there are so many nice messages for you. Actually, Zenobia reminds us, Sam, having a woman's perspective with Lara sharing the helm with you is something you cannot understate. I'm sure Sam understands that. So we've been well and truly told. Farzana said, Farzana K says, lovely webinar, Sam and Lara. Congratulations to you both. A big hello from Perth, Firoz and Maruk Pestenji. Sam Mandira Dutta, Sam, I've known you for the last 40 years as trainees. In spite of his tremendous success and mine, not so. He still remains the same great friend. So lots of lovely thoughts for you. One last question. I know this is a famous or a very favorite WZCC question. As you well know yourselves very well, a personal brand is something that people say about you when you're not in the room. So I would ask you both, Sam, perhaps to start with your own personal brand, Sam. What is it that you think, and what would you like people to say about Sam Balsara when you're not in the room?
Well, I would think objective, fair, and friendly.
Objective, fair, and friendly. Okay, and modest by the sounds of it as well. Okay, and Lara, what about you?
I think, yeah, I guess something on the lines of honest and yeah, something on honest and yes,
well, gosh, it seems to me that Parsis are very modest indeed, but I'll let you get away with that for now. Thank you so much. There's so many good thoughts and good words for you on the chat box. We'll hopefully get those to you later. Thank you very much indeed. I'm passing back to Mayor in the studio, as they say. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful session. Very, very enlightening. And thank you, Sam and Lara, for
welcome, Mayor. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Mayor, for inviting us.
Okay, before we end, I would like one more person. I would like to invite one more person, and that is Mr. Percy Master. Percy Master is the Global Regional Director for India of WZCC, and he has been invited to deliver a vote of thanks to all the wonderful people who have made it possible for us to have Sam, Lara, and of course the participants. Talking about Percy Master, he spearheads the Master Group of companies, a diversified group having interests in shipping, power, logistics, and warehousing. The Master Group today is a force to reckon with in the Indian shipping industry and a trendsetter in all activities. Percy, you can carry on with your vote of thanks and then deliver back to me so that I can thank everyone and end the session.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. We have had a wonderful webinar, very interesting one. And I think we will start with Jasmine Sorabji, who is also a part of the media, and she knows the subject very well. So she did very well for introducing Balsara, and most of it were not even something that we not even thought about. So thank you, Jasmine, for that wonderful introduction to start the whole webinar on the right path. Sam, Balsara, and Medicine World are synonymous with advertising. Today we have witnessed an insight into the world of advertising from the guru himself. He is a great community man, and not only does he love our community, as he said, but he lives it also by helping us, especially WZCC, in more ways than one. We look to his vast experience, as he is also a member of WZCC's financial initiative and always gives us the right perspective. Thank you, Sam, for believing in us and never saying no. in spite of your extremely busy schedule. You have proved that to succeed, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. And you rightly said that today it saddens us the way our community is progressing, and wish that we had some good people like you spearheading the drive to make the community great again. As a doting father and a family man, you have done well to cultivate both your daughters and make them stand on their feet and be independent. We have all heard Lara Balsara Vajifta and the role she plays in supporting her father in advertising. Lara, you have bravely taken over the mantle and become a pillar of strength for your father. Thank you very much for being with us today and sharing your experience. We wish you all success. Where there is a will, there is a way. And Tanya Balsara, as we all know, has proved her worth beyond any doubt. Behind all this is, of course, a woman. Homai Balsara is keeping a tight leash on the family and encouraging the family to do well always. So thank you, Homai, also. In the end, we can only say that may Aura Mazda bless our community with more such dynamic and futuristic family as the Balsaras. The wonderful interview for Sam and Lara was carried out by Nozer. Thank you, Nozer, for conducting this wonderful interview with Sam and Lara in your most imitable style, and which kept us all spellbound during the entire interview, which was so very interesting to us all. Especially the interaction between the father and the daughter was very interesting and very ably brought out by Nozer. Thank you, Nozer, for this wonderful interview that you carried out. Such a wonderful interview also requires a good question and answer session. And Persis Setna, as always, carried out a wonderful question and answer session, which brought out the nucleus of the entire webinar in how they progressed, what things that happened, and brought the interest of the audience to the fore. So thank you, Persis, for this wonderful way you have carried out the question and answer session. For this wonderful webinar and all that we have experienced, we have to thank Meher Besania, who has really thrilled us with a series of webinars this pandemic year, when it was most needed. This is the last webinar of the year, and she has promised that 2021 will be even better. We look forward to your continuous interest in holding value-based webinars in 2021 also. Thank you very much, Meher.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, just to invite her. Ladies and gentlemen, none of this would have been possible without our IT guru, Yazdi Tantra and Tantra Tech. Ever helpful and ever willing to assist WZCC in holding their activities, especially webinars and Zoom meetings that we all had during 2020. Unfortunately, we have to request him to continue his dynamism in 2021 also. Thank you, Yazdi. You have been really wonderful. All throughout 2020, our global president, Adel Davar, has encouraged us and pushed us to do business as usual, and that we have all done. Thank you, Adel, for your continuous encouragement to us all. Finally, we have to thank all the lovely audience which has supported us in all the webinars. And today the audience has even crossed well into the 90s. We must thank them for the wonderful encouragement they gave us to do better and better webinars. This is the last of the webinars in 2020, as Meher said. Let me end by wishing all of you Merry Christmas and Happy New Year 2021. May the new year make us free of the pandemic and our lives return to normal as before. This has been a trying year for all of us, and let us pray that our community progresses in the years to come with the blessings of Aura Mazda. Thank you very much, all of you, for attending this wonderful webinar. Over to you, Meher.
Percy, thank you, and thanks for wishing and thanking so many people. They really deserve, and what you said was truly apt. for each one of them. So thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Nozer. Thank you, Lara, Sam, Percy, all of you and of course the participants for attending this webinar. I would be failing in my duty if I did not thank Yasti, who partnered me on all these webinars and hosted the webinars in a very, in a seamless manner. Thank you, Yasti. I really want to do that from the bottom of my heart. And of course, the year is coming to an end. You will be hearing from Dubai, or Dubai will be live again in the month of March with another spectacular speaker. Till then, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, enjoy yourselves, and a very happy New Year. Thank you very much, all of you, for attending, and Adel, thanks a lot for your support to WZCC. It's always been a pleasure to work with you. Thank you.
Bye, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Bye.
All the best.
Happy New Year to
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Nozer. Wonderfully
Thank you, Mayor.
hosted webinar. Thank you for your help. Percy, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye. Bye.